Hi everyone, I'm David Aragona, and welcome to this edition of DRF Best Bets, where DRF Handicappers give their top wagering opinions for the upcoming weekend. In this episode, we have analysis coming from Bradford, Nicole, Russo, Mike Beer, and myself, but we'll get to my opinion at the end of the show. Let's start by seeing who Brad likes this upcoming weekend.
Thanks, David. The 2-week winter thoroughbred meet at Los Alamitos began on Friday. We're going to race number 4 on Saturday. It's a 6-furlong starter allowance for fillies and mares, and I like the mare who I think should be favored. She's not, at least on the morning line, and I'm referring to number 5, Miss Tokyo, listed at 3-1. The program favorite is number 6, So Very Smart, dropping in class off a last place finish. I prefer to wager on horses moving up the ladder, and that describes Miss Tokyo. Miss Tokyo had been off 16 months when she returned this fall at Santa Anita in a 25 claiming into well on grass. She won that race kind of decisively, and she won with an off-the-pace trip like she figures to get on Saturday, sitting right behind So Very Smart and Saturday Heist. Her form is sharp. She's moving up in class from claiming to starter allowance, and she is proven on the Los Alamitos racetrack. Prior to her layoff, she finished second in a 1-mile allowance race. And these guys who train and ride her, I'm referring to Leonard Powell and Juan Hernandez, are guys you can back with confidence. In fact, over the last few months, Powell and Hernandez are 6 for 14 together. Miss Tokyo should get a great trip sitting third behind the speed. She can sweep by and score a relatively predictable win at a relatively generous price. We'll take 2-1 or higher on Miss Tokyo in race number 4 on Saturday at Los Alamitos. Let's check in with Nicole.
A horse I'd want to play this weekend is Misinterpret in the Demoiselle. She's 10-1 on the morning line against some solid-looking foes, including Nest, who was under consideration for the Breeders' Cup but waited for this Grade 2, and Magic Circle, who actually beat Nest last out and is tangled with the likes of Echo Zulu. But there aren't any Echo Zulus or Juju's maps in this bunch, I think. It looks like a pretty well-matched group, and it could be a good place to look for a bit of a long shot and to let you play it a bit safer elsewhere on this stakes-loaded card. And Misinterpret also seems to be dropping down to perhaps a softer class after facing some strong foes. You'll watch her here winning an off-the-turf edition of the P.G. Johnson at Saratoga. Third place Sail By flattered her by coming back to Miss Griot at Belmont. Misinterpret then went on to finish 8th in the Grade 1 Alcibiades. Although she was just not involved, that came back as a very strong addition of that Grade 1 at Keeneland. The winner, Juju's Map, came back to finish 2nd in the Juvenile Fillies. Dream Lith emerged from the race to win the Goldenrod last weekend at Churchill, and Matarea was stakes place that same evening at Churchill. So I'm willing to give Misinterpret a pass for that try against stiff Grade 1 company in a race that's come back very strong. I certainly don't think the 2 turns of the Alcibiades got Misinterpret beaten. I think she'll like the distance here. She's by street sense, out of a touch gold mare, certainly the pedigree for the distance. She also has plenty of seasoning with 5 starts under her belt. That could help her against some of these fillies going sprint to route for the first time with less experience, or those who have just run the 1-turn mile at Belmont. That's how I'm interpreting the Demoiselle. Let's see who Mike likes this weekend next on Best Bets.
Thanks, Nicole. Several stakes races on this Saturday card at Aqueduct, but I'm going to go with one of the undercard races for my best bet. Race number 5 is a maiden special weight event for 2-year-old fillies. They're going to go 1 mile and a 16th on the turf course. I like number 2, Etheric, in this race, shipping in for trainer Michael Dickinson, a filly who was a full sister to a Grade 2 winner on the turf who was also trained by Michael Dickinson. And Etheric debuted at Laurel, going this distance, a race where she was just raided back to the back of the pack at the start, left with a lot to do. We'll pick up the replay here of the stretch run of this race, and you can see through the upper stretch here, she's sort of caught behind horses with nowhere to go, needs to get a little room to run. She finally gets it as they pass mid-stretch, and I thought this filly put in a really nice finish at the end of this race, got within a couple of lengths of the leaders. I thought that overall this was a really nice debut without a perfect trip in this race. I know it came back a little bit of a slow race, but she just looked to me like a filly who might have needed the start. Trainer Michael Dickinson has great numbers with his maidens making their second career starts and turf routes. So you can look that figure up in Formulator. It's a very strong number. I expect Etheric to run a much better race second time out, and she is 10-1 on the morning line. So that's going to be my best bet for Saturday. I'm sure that David Aragona has an idea on this excellent Saturday card at Aqueduct. So let's send it over to him to close out this segment.
My best bet comes in Saturday's second race at Aqueduct. It's a New York bred maiden special weight going 1.16 miles on the inner turf course, and I'm going for a bit of a price on this race. The likely favorite is going to be the number 3 Robin and Eli, who's going out for the powerful Chad Brown stable. She ran well to be second in her debut, going 6 furlongs last month, but she's stretching out to the 1.16 miles here. Chad Brown does have decent numbers doing that, but she's just a really obvious horse off that solid race first time out, and I thought there was the potential for her to be overbet here in a race where, when you do a little bit of digging, there are some interesting alternatives, and the one that I was interested in that I think could be the biggest price is the number 6, She's a Natural, who I've listed at 15-1 in the morning line. She's actually coming out of that same October 16th maiden race as Robin and Eli, and I thought that she just did not get the right trip that day, whereas Robin and Eli had a pretty cozy situation stalking the pace and coming on through for second. She's a Natural was off a little bit slowly. She was shuffled back in the early going, got 2 ranked towards the back of the pack, got down to the inside, but was in so much traffic around the far turn. Once she got into the stretch, Junior Alvarado was looking for some running room, but a horse came over on her. She sustained a really hard bump around the 3/16 pole that pushed her back inside, and she just was not really persevered with through the final 1/8 of a mile of that race. She ended up splitting the field, finishing in 7th place, but I think that the result does not indicate how well she ran that day, and she just seems like a candidate to take a big step forward on the stretch out and distance. She's a daughter of Bala Bali, who could go longer. The Dam bargaining table, you might remember her if you've been following New York racing. She was a multiple turf route winner, run a lot of races on this circuit, almost all of them going longer. So She's a Natural seems like she's really bred to handle this added ground, and I like the rider switch to John Velasquez. I think this horse has more tactical speed than she showed in her debut, and I think Johnny V is going to be much more aggressive on her this time, so I'd look for her to get forward position in the early going, and she just seems like a horse that is a real candidate to improve second time out, and I do believe you're going to get a decent price on her. So it's the number 6, She's a Natural, for me in the second race at Aqueduct on that Cigar Miles Saturday card. That's it for this edition of DRF Best Bets. Good luck if you're playing this weekend.